We are back with another video regarding the Jon-E brand hand warmers. So I'm going to try and keep it as short and sweet as possible. We'll see how that goes. But anyway, good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone's enjoying life to the fullest and keeping warm during these winter days. But so we're going to touch base. A question has come up in the past to me regarding the tops of the hand warmers. And pretty overlooked type of design in the hand warmers for the Jon-Es. And and the question has come up just recently again. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to do a video and we'll top this off regarding the tops. So here we have the two standard models, earlier models, and then getting into the newer models, and then one of the newer model GIs, or also known as the Giants. So the question is what I thought or what I knew about the design changes in the tops. So if you look, so first of all, they came out with they had another top here. There's a couple of different tops, maybe a few different tops, designs, if people really pay attention to the changes over the years. But anyway, there's another one that doesn't even have this flap. That was before they came out with this. And they actually had one also that had this here entire hole design and just made this center hole right here a little bit bigger. And it got really thin between the other holes. There wasn't much metal in there. They do have a model like that out there after this one. And then they came out where they removed some of these closer holes. As you can see here, if we move this out of the way, they removed the holes that were real close to this larger diameter hole they put in there for lighting cigarettes back in the day. And I touched on it real quick in another video of mine. I can do it right now too. Whereas to, another question that came up over the years where people believed that this was a damper to help control the air flowing into that burner. That is not the truth. The truth is that this hole was so much bigger, and because it was throwing so much heat out, it would put little burn holes in the pouches. So they didn't have that problem generally with this here design. They only had it when they came out with that larger hole. So they had the larger hole in this here design where they just made that hole bigger. Then they went to the design where they eliminated the closer holes in here, these here few right here. So they had more metal in between the holes and the big one there. And then that's when they realized they had an issue with all the heat coming out and burning the pouches. And then they added this flapper on to get the hole diameter back down to the previous hole diameters, basically, to limit the amount of heat that was coming out, causing that issue with the pouches. So that's what that is. It's not a damper control for airflow going into the burner. It's more for like heat control going out, damaging the pouch. So hopefully we got that clear. And that is also why you'll never see a GI model with that flapper on it, because the GI model is a lot thicker. It's curved out a lot more. It puts more distance. You might not be able to see real well here, but you can see, you can see the burner really easy on the littler one here, but you can't see it as easy on the big one because there's a lot more air gap between the burner and the outside. So that's why they didn't think it was necessary to put that damper on the big ones and add more cost to manufacturing on the GI models versus the little ones where they knew they had to do something. So back to the original question that aroused, however you want to say it. the hole change design on the top now. So they went from the 5 little holes on the top for the standard models to 3 holes, and these odd shaped ones, which actually became more of a rectangle shape after Orbix took over the company, roughly about 1980. And they did on the GIs, those had 4 round holes instead of the 5 on the early models, and then they went to this here design. So the reason why that is because in the early years when they were using this, there's a little bit of gap. I'll try and line it up here in the camera. If we line this up here where it's hitting on the lip, where the cap seats onto the base, if you look, there's a bit of a difference with the height, with the burner to the top of the unit. Well, you need that air gap. You don't want it right up to the top. Then it's going to get really extremely hot on the top here, and you'll be having more chances of burning your fingers. So needed space around there. But one thing that has been noticed over the years of producing these is if people are using them in a rigorous situation, if they're jogging with them or running, or they're out hunting or various activities, and if this is bouncing around, sometimes these burners, if they're not stuck on there very well, they can pop off. And sometimes even if they're on there, they pop off. But if you get everything adjusted right, it does pretty good for the most intended uses on these. But it can fall off, and if it falls off, we'll pull it and we'll try and simulate it in here. Now it's loose in there. Well, it's not going to be burning anymore because it came off, and it needs those fumes evaporating through the opening to gum up through the catalyst here and get the burning action going. So that falls off, it stops working. Now you got to try and put it back on and get it lit and so on and so on. So they came out with this design. Well, what does hole shape and design have to do with the burner? Well, it's kind of a ingenious idea. Something quick, easy, without having to do a full redesign for as far as a die for the bottom half, like they did on the models that came out that started being stamped with the Orbix brand. They have 2 holes in the burner down here, which they had 2 dimples on each side. So you got 2 holes on each side, and you got 2 dimples on the lip here on each side, so it snaps into place and keeps it locked in. They still kept the rectangle holes, which is kind of surprising when they went to the rectangle holes and they did those dimples all at the same time. That I'm not sure why they did that, because the purpose of them coming out with this design of hole, it was not for extra airflow, which I've heard that over the years. It's not because of that. It might have benefited the airflow, but it's not the reason. The reason is, if you notice, when they punched these 2 odd-shaped holes, or, as I said, the rectangle holes, when they started stamping them with the Orbix brand on the bottom, you notice inside, they got the metal tabs there. So it's not a clean punch through where the slug of metal fell out like they would do with all the rest of the holes in here. It's like, why would they do that? That is the stopper for the burner. So when this seats down, those tabs go right up to the top of the burner, and you aren't going to see it very good in the camera, I don't think, on this little one. I'll show it on the big one here shortly. But those tabs stick down far enough to the top of the burner. So, which brings up another ordeal. Sometimes when people over the years would go ahead and change the burners, they buy a new burner. There was a couple of different heights of burners produced for the hand warmers. If they had one of these where the tabs were bent to accommodate the shorter burner, which means them tabs are all the way down, and in many cases they'll fit even on the taller burners, but there are instances where when you install a new burner, and if it's a little bit taller than the previous burner you had, you go to put the cap on and you'll end up with a little bit of a space in there, or it might rock. All you have to do is bend those tabs. Go in there with like a needle nose pliers and go ahead and bend those tabs outward or inward, whichever way is easier for you. But you just bend them ever so slightly to the side. So now instead of straight up and down, they'll be pitched at an angle a little bit. Bend it a little bit and try it. If it still isn't seating all the way, take it off, bend them a little bit further. Eventually, it's going to seat because that's what's stopping it from seating. And you don't want to bend them all the way up or any further than you have to, because that's what they're there for. The stop is there to prevent this from being able to pop off when in use. So that's what those tabs are for, in case anybody was wondering, or even people that never even put any thought into it, but that's what it's for. So we'll see if we can get this to show up better here in the camera. Probably not. I'll grab a little light here quick. I don't want to flood it with a lot of light, so just use this little LED light and maybe that'll help. There you go. So hopefully you can see that in the camera. You can see them tabs are right at the top of the burner in there. You can see the red colored burner in there. So there's the tabs. You can even see them better than in the small ones. So when you sit it down, it's holding that burner from falling off during your rigorous activities. So anyway, the video has gone on long enough. We're trying to make these things shorter, but we like to get good explanations out there for individuals. But that's it in a nutshell. So in case anyone was ever wondering, now you know. Thank you for watching. You all have a great and blessed day.